that's pretty good. I'm glad to see that. I'm trying a little different lighting situation here to see if I can get the colors a little more natural. So if you're wondering if the lighting looks a little different, it does. I can see I'm a little dark over here, but I think I like this better than the really, really bright light. And we'll see how it works out. Hello, everyone. It's the 1st of June, 2022. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome as you come in. And it's a Wednesday evening, and we're having Scotch. Yeah, this is real Scotch this time. It's not whiskey. It's not Tennessee whiskey or bourbon or Canadian whiskey or Irish. It is Scotch. It's not a real expensive variety. The name is Speyburn. It's not high end, but one of the things I found out about Scotch, unless you're looking for status, something like this works just fine. I mean, I do like the Glenfiddichs, and I do like the Dalmores, and et cetera, et cetera. But they're up around $50 to $70 a bottle or more now. Speyburn, when I bought this, I've had this now for probably a year. I think I paid $30 for the bottle of Speyburn, and it is a Speyside Scotch. It's not an Islay or a Highlands, so it's a little on the fruity side. Not quite. That's not really a really good description, but it's kind of buttery still. A lot like the single pot or the copper single pot stills that they use for Irish whiskey. So it's mild. Has a little bite when you first take a sip, but after that it's pretty good. And I haven't had a sip yet, so don't think I'm already there. I'm not. Uh, okay, let's see. One of my purposes tonight is to see what you all have to say. 5 by 5. Thank you very much. Cheers. Yes, cheers. I'll take a sip of that here in a minute. Single malt. This is a single malt. Let me show you the bottle. Maybe that's the best way to do it. It says Speyside Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, and it's 10 years old. Okay, see that there? Uh, like I said, when I bought this, it was about, well, I think it was actually like, yeah, right around $30 a bottle. I suspect that if I went and picked up one of these now, they're probably going to be close to 35 or 40 minimum. Uh, when when I started getting serious about Scotch, I actually called up Bettina. You'll know her as Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice. It was a year ago here in just about 3 weeks where she left us. But at any rate, I called her up and I said, "Hey, Bettina, what do you think I ought to do? I've been in Scotch for a while. What should I try?" And she goes, "Oh, Lefroy, for sure. You got to try Lefroy." And I've told that story before. She introduced me to the Islays through Lefroy. And when I first opened the bottle, I thought it was Campho-Phenique. It has a very strong phenol smell to it because they use peat moss to dry out the barley, and that smell of the peat gets into the barley. But that's why people like it. It's definitely an acquired taste. I didn't care for it when I first tried it, but it kind of grew on me. But this is what we're having tonight. So yeah, cheers, everybody. Mm, that's actually really good. Yeah, I like it a lot. So we're not talking scripture tonight, at least not intentionally. It might come up in the conversation, but as so many of these, I really wasn't going to do this tonight, but I decided to because I think it's probably a good time to take a question and answer thing, and that's kind of what I'm going to do here. So let's see. Oh, Balvenie. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Betty. I have Balvenie as a matter of fact. I don't have Dalwhinnie. I've never even tried Dalwhinnie, but I do have Balvenie. I have their double oak, I think it's called, and their Caribbean cask. I have that in my collection, and actually, the Caribbean cask one, it's my second bottle that I bought. The first one was again because of Bettina, Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice. She said, "Man, my husband just went out and bought me some Caribbean cask. You really ought to try it. It's really good." So, forthrightly, I went out and I bought it. She was right. It's really fantastic for those of you who appreciate Scotch. It's good, and it's not the status quo stuff where you're paying $300 plus for a bottle just because you can say you're having some really old Scotch. I've had that before, those really old ones, and as I said in several of my nightcaps and other things, there's a point of diminishing returns as far as I'm concerned. I don't have the palate to really discern the difference between, say, 60, 70, $80 Scotch and a $300 or $3,000 Scotch. I just don't. So I think it's more of a status quo thing. At least it would be under most circumstances that I've encountered. So this does me just fine. Okay. So anyway, yeah, Balvini's great though. Downwindy, I've never Abalor. I've had that. I've had that. Yeah, I like it too, and it comes in a pretty high. They have a pretty high alcohol content. I think it's like up around almost 60%. You can get one that's almost, yeah, it's kind of Camphora. The Lafroigs and the Ardbegs are in those types. Oh, let's see. What does it say? Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hi, C. Garcia. Hi. Good. All right. Good night. Somebody's good night. Yeah, you must be from Australia. Okay. I didn't notify any of my mods on this. It was kind of a last minute thing, and it's really more of a discussion. Nothing specifically that I think they'd be concerned about addressing. Of course, it's nice to have a mod here to keep the room clean, as Monty says, because I can't really do that and talk at the same time. I really can't chew gum and walk at the same time, but trying to manage the chat and talk, that's a little different. Can we chat about possible new Second Amendment laws that will more than likely not be accepted by the masses? Well, I don't think it would do much good for us to do that. That's not going. We're not going to get anything in our favor. Okay, it's over with. Which is one of the reasons why I decided to come on tonight. I'm watching what's happening, and if you consider the history over the last 60 years, we really haven't. And I'm not saying any of the wars or police actions or special military operations, as Putin calls his. None of those that we have done, with the possible exception of Grenada in the 80s that I can think of, were successful. They've all been a disaster. Our military is a shambles. Our general staff, our brass, our bureaucrats in the Department of Defense, and our politicians, they're all either incompetent or they're intentionally involved in only one thing, and that's getting money for themselves in the military industrial complex. And I've talked about that before. The point is, we haven't been successful in any military operation, really, that we've been engaged in since World War II. And there are questions even about that. Who really won that? Was it the Allies, Britain, the U.S., etc., or was it the Russians? Well, I think it was probably the Russians, actually, that did the job. And I'm not saying the way they did it was good. I'm not saying that. But at any rate, so I thought I'd come on here and point out that the Second Amendment question is a good starting point. They can't win wars anywhere else, whether it's by design or by incompetence, whichever it is. What it's really done is it's bled the treasure and the blood of the American people, which was really the idea in the first place, as I've often mentioned. And so now that they can't win any of these wars, and I've said, if we got into an actual high intensity war, and I'll explain the difference between high intensity and low intensity in a minute. If we got into a high intensity war with Russia, they would kick our asses. Okay, they would. And I've said that, and we're seeing it now in this proxy war. I understand that Ukraine isn't all that strong, but they have had, since 2014 to get trained and equipped by the U.S. and NATO, and they still can't pull it off. Well, neither would the American military. Okay, that's how bad it is. We have good weapon systems, our air power is very good. But as we saw in Afghanistan and other places, it doesn't work in the long run because, first of all, we have and I'm sorry, you vets and you current military people that are on active duty or whatever, we're wusses. And as you've seen in the last few days with this big uh, PRIDE celebration going on, where even the Marine Corps is doing it, and the Air Force, they're violating uniform standards and all sorts of things. We're done as a nation, okay? We're done. And the elite know it, and they're going to take us down the rest of the way because that's really what they want. They want to steal from us and murder us, and that's where this is going. So my point is that nothing that we can do, no constitutional convention or anything like that is going to work. We're done. Okay, so it's like I said for a long time. We have to prep, pray, and stay out of the way. Hopefully, you've got some locals that you can get in with and make things good as well as you can. Food, water, uh, you know, metal protectors, as Monty would say, and those types of things. But don't kid yourself, because they haven't been able to win anywhere else in the world other than defeating the United States, the Americans, by stealing their treasure and their blood. Now they're turning all of those weapons in against us. They're turning them inward against us. And that process has been going on for a long time, but now it's reached a crescendo. And I think anybody who is willing to open their eyes and admit it will see it. No, I'm not un American. No, it's because I am an American, because I do believe in liberty, because I do believe in the perfect law of liberty as it explains in the scriptures. Uh, I am finding fault with what this government has turned into. And we could talk about the history of, the Civil War, 1879, when they went to the corporation of the U.S. There are a lot of things that have happened, but the point is that we're the enemy in the end, and they're turning all of those weapons against us now because they failed everywhere else, primarily because they were being tested for use here. And I've talked about that. That's really what this was all about. So they don't want us to be armed. You get one of these shootings, and then you get copycats if they're not FBI instigated or CIA instigated or whatever, which I think most of them are, and most of them that we've seen. For instance, as I talked about not too long ago, the Garland shooting in Texas, the situation with, well, almost all of these things. You saw what happened with the supposed attempt by militia to kidnap Governor Whitmer. That was all FBI ran. January 6th was all FBI ran. Of course, there wasn't any shooting there or anything. There were a few things that happened, but all of that was instigated by provocateurs within the federal system, and that's the way it's been for a long time. And I've been warning about that for 30 years. Hence, when I started my YouTube channel, very early on, I said that the IC is our most dangerous domestic enemy, and I also put out that series in my playlists on the FBI being corrupted. And it's been corrupted actually since its inception, but right now it's a criminal syndicate and protection racket for the politicians. That's what it is. So there's no sense in looking to the United States government as it is currently constituted for any redress of grievance or help. Well, you'll get a little help here and there. You saw this thing with the Supreme Court lately, but how will they rule on, for instance, requiring you to get the GMI, or when that finally comes around, no matter what it's for, uh, and what are they going to do with the Second Amendment? It's hard to say. I would like to think that Amy Coney Barrett and Gorsuch and Kavanaugh played a little liberal on one side in order to get in, but I don't really see that in the long run. And then, of course, now we've got, I think it's Jackson in there now that's going to really cause some problems. So, regardless, the Supreme Court does not rule over us. The government does not rule over us. The final arbiter of our liberty is the people. It's us. and we're just going to have to step up to the plate, and it's not going to be pretty. Okay, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy. But short of that, nothing's going to do it. And it's not going to be done at the ballot box. I'm afraid that's all been rigged to the point where there's no redress there either. There's no hope that that will ever turn it right. They might give you a little win here and there to keep you interested in the system, but it's totally controlled, and I think we all know that. So they're turning the weapons at and there were people that talked about that, both the founding fathers and others since then, that the weapons made to protect us against foreign enemies will eventually turn against us. And that's exactly what we've seen. This entire thing with Durham uh, and the situation with Sussman and that whole trial and everything that's going on, how disgusting was that? All the evidence came out. We now know who was behind it quite a bit. I mean, there's more to it than that has come out even now, but we still know. And as a result of that, nobody's going to jail. Matter of fact, he gets exonerated, he gets acquitted. You spit on the sidewalk, you park somewhere where you're not supposed to, and they come after you and throw the book at you. The system, there's a two-tiered justice system, we all know it, and no country can survive long like that. It's going to turn ugly. And they're going to blame it on us, hence they want to take our weapons from us so we can protect ourselves from them. And again, that won't be easy. you know, uh, but as you saw in Afghanistan, a determined people can defeat a superpower, which is what Russia is going to have to worry about in Ukraine when this thing goes asymmetrical after a while, because that's what the U.S. wants. So let's talk about Afghanistan for a minute and where that's Afghanistan, Ukraine, uh, where that's taking us right now. Everything's pretty well going the way myself and many other people have discussed. Not as the MSM and the governments and the military-industrial complex and the real traders in the country or the people that don't understand anything, and certainly the MSM, as I just said, which is nothing more than a propaganda arm for the CIA, which has basically failed in everything. And again, not necessarily out of incompetence, but out of the fact that they want to take America down. That's really what it's about, and they become those on top of the halls of power. But at any rate, what we're seeing, and we've heard about it from some of these what became mercenaries, really, who entered the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Uh, a lot of people that, for instance, had been in Afghanistan or even Iraq, those were really not high intensity conflicts, high intensity wars. Definitely not. And unfortunately, the generals are always fighting the last war. So what they're looking at, and a lot of these guys who went over there to join the Ukrainians, found out that it's not the Afghan war. It's not even the Iraq war. It's more like World War II. Low intensity conflict is what we saw in Afghanistan. Yeah, you'll have little flare ups everywhere where you have a pretty intense battle. Vietnam was a low intensity conflict, actually, approaching middle intensity, but primarily low intensity. There were a few, major engagements. For instance, the Tet Offensive, for example, but even that didn't rise to the level of World War II high intensity warfare conflict. However, these guys that are going over there thinking that they're going to fight an Afghan war and even Iraq war found out real fast that the Russians are not the Afghans, they're not the Iraqis, they're not even the Iranians. They are a highly trained, well equipped, determined army to protect their country, to protect their borders, unlike our dirty ass politicians who couldn't care less about our borders. So, knowing that, I just want to remind you that what we're seeing at this stage, and it's been this way from nearly the start, this is a high intensity conflict in the Donbass and in eastern Ukraine. And that's why I called for, if Putin's serious, he's going to have to engage the center and the far western part of Ukraine in some way or another, because he has to attack those logistical supply lines and the armies that they are or may not be amassing there to try for a counteroffensive. The United States is deceitful, and I heard on the Drazen report, um, and I've talked about that before. I don't have any links in the description box here, but I've talked about the Drazen report. I've talked about Alexander Mercouris. I've talked about the Duran, for instance. I've talked about the military summary. These are all sites on YouTube. And I've talked about, of course, the new Atlas with Brian. All these people are very competent in their analyses. And the fact of the matter is that short of NATO securing, or at least the United States, somebody helping Ukraine secure the area around Kiev and further west, the Russians can walk through there pretty easily at this point. Considering they pretty much their objectives, as Putin said, were the denazification and the demilitarization of Ukraine. So the objectives weren't even on the ground objectives necessarily, cities or that types of things. And this gets into things like Sun Tzu and Clausewitz and those kinds of of war philosophers, the principles of war and things like that. But the objective has been to go after the Nazis and to destroy the military capability of Ukraine. And so, with those being the objectives, it's always been wrong for the MSM and for these generals who get up there and spout off their nonsense, talking about whether Ukraine has made gains or Russia has made gains based on ground occupation, because the real objective of Russia has been to destroy the Ukrainian military, and that's exactly what's going on. And to denazify, take out the Nazis. And they took that whole Azov battalion practically. There are probably a few holdouts in the Azovstal steelworks, but by and large, they took out nearly 2,000 prisoners out of there, and that doesn't count all the people that all the Nazis, and I'll just call them the Azov battalion folks, that were killed or otherwise had things happen to them. So Russia's doing it. And the United States is playing with fire, sending all these weapons and things in there, thinking that that keeps them neutral. That's only going to keep us neutral for so long. When the Bismarck, for instance, or the Lusitania were sunk, back in World Wars One and Two, the Germans warned America not to send those ships over there with those munitions, because they knew that they had them, and supply Britain, etc. And that became an act of war by the United States, and so they attacked us. Germany attacked us. Very sad, because a lot of people were just innocent passengers on those ships. But the United States Army, the United States government doesn't care. They'll kill all of you people to stay in power. All of you. And they've proven that with what's happened just in the last 2 years. If you looked up the Deagle report and all that, you should know all of this. So my point is, Biden's playing with fire, and the people that are behind him, of course, Milley, the military-industrial complex, the Raytheon, NATO, everybody. Very bad to do this. You're actually waging war on Russia, pretending you're not. And the Congress doesn't even have the guts, probably because Biden hasn't asked them to give them a declaration of war yet. But regardless, Congress is going along with this nonsense because it's money in their pockets, and because they've been told for so long that the Russians are so horrible. No, the Russians have done nothing around the world compared to what the United States has done as far as evil is concerned. And for that, I've been called un-American, but I'm calling it out because I didn't ever want this nation that I served to become an evil empire. But it has been for at least 50 years, 40 years at the least. And there are arguments that it could go back all the way to the Civil War, maybe even before that. But regardless, me wanting to be this the true bastion of liberty and the light to the world, and the fact that it claims to be and is not, as I often said when I started my YouTube channel, that that we're like a bottle of medicine. You know, what's on the label isn't what's inside. That the contents have been changed. We're not what we claim to be. Notice I'm wearing my camouflage shirt. I hope you get the subliminal message on that. It's You have to start taking your self-defense seriously, and I've said that actually since the BLM and Antifa riots of 2020, etc. Um, but now you've got the government saying they're coming after you. Now there's going to be a fight over all of this in Congress to some extent, but when you get Leader McConnell saying that the rhinos have to reach across the aisle and go along with the Dems' plans on disarming the American population or restricting their ability to defend themselves, we're in serious trouble. We have no advocates of any horsepower. I'm so full of good news. Let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard for a minute, because that sure raised a storm, didn't it? Again, I want to apologize when I didn't have my phone plugged in to power, but when I set it up, I just grabbed it. It was on that last video that I did that you all watched when I was talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I just wanted to mention that, of course, at that particular time, just make a quick mention that she had, basically condemned the World Economic Forum and all of that. And yeah, I know she was one of the, you know, young world leaders or whatever they call that. I know that, and people want to make a big deal about it. And I'm not here to argue the Tulsi thing again. I just wanted to say that I do apologize for losing my mouth there when I did. I came up with a word some time ago. It was called DPPP. And I'll just say it here. For sure, I'd say dipped. Instead of saying, F you, I'd say dipped you. And dip, I made that up because I didn't really want to denigrate human sexuality, but dipped stands for donkey phallus posterior penetration, right? Most of you who follow me know that. I tried to use that. But, when you get upset, those other four-letter words are just so much more satisfying. I guess I have to admit it. And I know it's not a good thing to do. I'm not saying it's evil or anything like that, but it does show a lack of discipline. But at any rate, so my phone, it said it had like 35% power, and I thought, well, I can just make this quick thing, tell them about the description box, tell them about Tulsi, and then it'll take me 2-3 minutes and I'll be done. Well, as you saw, I think it was within the first minute, all of a sudden it shut down. And this has happened to me many, many times. So I rushed and I got the power cord and I plugged it in. And of course, I started back up again. I think I was down for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, something like that. But I was told both on the chat that night, and I've been talking to some other techies, and they say if you're being surveilled, if they're watching you, they actually can turn on things in your phone that drain your battery quickly within minutes. Whether deliberately to drain the battery or just because they're trying to listen in and watch what you're doing outside of what you're posting. So that's very possible. There's a fusion center not far from where I'm standing. If you don't know what a fusion center is, you might want. It has nothing to do with atomic energy, by the way, nuclear energy. But anyway, there's a fusion center not too far from here, and I run into, let's say, either InfraGard or federal agents, maybe even state agents, quite frequently actually. They check on me. One came to the door today pretending to be a bug sprayer. He said he had his truck out there and that he was, checking on things, but who he was checking on was me. It was pretty obvious. He didn't have a truck. He had a small black sedan. He didn't think I'd check on him after he left the house, but I did. So they're still up to it, and the people like Colonel Manus and John Cardillo, those guys who have their Twitter and YouTube channels and speak out quite often. I'm sure that they're experiencing to some extent those same things. Um, so at any rate, uh, I apologize for letting that little four-letter word slip out. And then I noticed that about three-quarters of the way through, somebody got me, or maybe further than that, somebody said something that got me upset. I almost said it again. So anyway, lack of discipline, folks, and even I do exhibit that sometimes. But you can't spend 28 years in the military and police and not come away, uh, being uh, using that language. And I think I've told you before, the way I never used to cuss ever. In the military, like I told the story before, when I was a military police officer, when the military police duty officer comes onto a scene, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he's the representative of the commanding general of the post, and he has that kind of authority. And so I never had to cuss. I might end up having to stick somebody, with my nightstick, or you know, punch somebody or something like that. But by and large, people knew that you don't mess with an MP duty officer. Well, when I became a police officer, of course, that didn't work. I'd say, hey, get down on your knees, cross your legs, and put your hands behind your head. Huh? You heard me. Oh, hi, Roosevelt. You are here. Uh, where is world is Carmen Potter? So, if I didn't use four-letter words, they didn't think I was serious. So that's when I really started to use four-letter words, and unfortunately, it's not quite ever worn off, I'm afraid. Yeah, there was another shooting today. Like I said, these are copycat things, or they're which is possible, or they're being orchestrated again by the feds or by nefarious state agencies who get involved. Uvalde, I don't even know how you say that, police department in Texas. A lot has come out. Monty did a good job on exposing a lot of that. And there's no question that there was something else going on there's no way that kid could have afforded what he had. His truck payment, the price of the equipment he had, all that. No, somebody was assisting him. And then this thing today with the medical center. Uh, I don't know all the details about that yet. Yeah, it's in Tulsa. But these things, they could be copycats, or they could be that the feds want a bunch of these in a row so they can push this. I'm going to say it here, right here and now, okay? They're going to play with you like they did on COVID. First, they're going to entice you with food. Remember de Blasio being out there saying, "Oh, you go get your GMI and you'll get a McDonald's hamburger and fries." Okay, and if that didn't work, then the next thing is, "Oh, you can get. We're going to have a raffle for the lottery, and you go get your GMI and you get a free ticket to the lottery, whatever." And it keeps escalating until finally they say, "Okay, you can't go to work unless you get it, or you can't go to the store unless you get it, or you won't get your paycheck, or you won't get your pension, whatever." That's exactly what's going to happen here, and it's going to start probably whenever they get this thing going through Congress, and of course all these traitors in there going along with it, because they'll get protected, but you can't, and they'll send weapons to people that they don't know. And in Mexico, with the Fast and Furious thing of Obama and his attorney general sending all that stuff down there, trying to take out the Second Amendment. And of course, then they send all these weapons to all these different countries around the world. The most recent at Ukraine, you've got criminals over there shooting people on the street and stealing from them. They don't know where those weapons are going. They don't care. They don't care. They just don't want you to have any, because they know that eventually the American people will stand up and say enough's enough. All right. Yeah, the Clinton thing is getting uglier too. Yeah, that's for sure. They're all dirty. Okay, they're all wicked. They're all evil. They're all reprobate demons. All of them. I don't even Ted Cruz. I don't even trust Rand Paul anymore, because they won't say it the way it really is. You might be happy to know that I haven't listened to Alex Jones now for it's been probably a couple weeks. You know, it used to be I'd turn him on for 10, 15 minutes just to see what he was going to talk about. And if he didn't get to the crux of the matter, I turned him off. But I'd give him 10, 15 minutes. But it's just gotten to the point, like I said a few years ago, it's one continuous run on commercial. All he does is sell himself and his products. All he does is ask for money. Hey, I didn't put him in that position. I don't need to bail him out. But he wants you to. So anyway, I've given up on Alex Jones completely. I have no use for him anymore. I think he did a lot of good over the years, but you know I just can't stand it anymore. So you might be happy to know that I'm not tuning into him anymore. Okay, even just for general information. I like some of his contributors. John Brown seems to be good. Greg Reese. And I know apparently he's financed a lot of people. I think he probably financed Project Veritas to some extent. So I'm not saying he hasn't done good things, but he's not willing to stand his ground. All he wants is money, and I'm tired of that. I'm just tired of it. So I'm done with Alex Jones completely. I don't even turn him on anymore. Um, the SH situation up there in Connecticut, he could have approached that a lot differently. I don't know what his attorney was really up to with that, but I saw that developing over a long period of time. There are other things happening in Connecticut that they should have brought up and they didn't, and why they didn't is really concerning to me. And we saw the same thing with the demise of that Supreme Court justice a few years back. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, but when he went to New Mexico, I saw somebody was from New Mexico here, and it was one of those debauchery ranches, and he was down there and supposedly died in his sleep with a pillow over his head. Yeah, right. Why am I forgetting his name? If anybody knows, you can throw it on here. But all of that's going on, and Alex wasn't willing to go there. I kind of understand it, but they took him to the cleaners anyway. So why back down? I'm not saying there weren't. Yeah, Scalia. Thank you, thank you. There weren't. I question whether there were people that actually died there, um, but it's not so much if they died, it's why they did. And I maintain, even to this day, that there are witch covens throughout this country that sacrifice their children who were never given birth certificates. Luciferians that do this, and and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there wouldn't be communities of them that would sacrifice their living children to their god, and then make a big national scene over it in a big play, a big drama. I believe on. I have no doubt that that's occurring, and I've said that before. I also raised it with the Las Vegas shooting. You know, I still consider that to have been a sacrifice to Moloch, as I explained the other night. And Trump was definitely, in my estimation, I think there's more than enough evidence to suggest that evidence, it's preponderance, it's suspicion primarily, but knowing his background and what he is and what he became, and what he's doing now with these GMIs, yeah. Is David Knight on YouTube or just Rumble? David Knight's not on YouTube at all. Just Rumble. He was on some other platforms. I can't remember what they are right now, but just go to the davidknightshow.com and you can see where he has his things. Of course, he's moved to Tennessee now. They got out of Texas. Alex did him a really bad situation there, put him in a really bad situation, which is something. If Alex if Alex never apologizes to him, I'll never forgive Alex. That what he did to David Knight was unconscionable. Oh yeah, David, uh, Alex Jones. You know he doesn't tell his people what to do or whatever. Uh huh. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, what he did to David Knight shows that that's not true. Operation Norwoods. Of course, I've researched that. You know, I was in the military. Remember, Razor Cream. If you've never researched Operation Northwoods, now's the time. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Operation Northwoods, the sinking of the Maine, um, the Red Army in Red Red Liberation Army, I think is what it was called. We have the Symbionese Liberation Army. We have the situation in Italy where NATO had I can't remember the exact name. It was Red something Army. I'm pulling a blank on that now, but I'm aware of it. Where NATO had these guys pretending to be communists and they were killing innocent people to try to blame the Soviets on it. See, it's not I mean, I'm not saying the Soviets didn't do things or even the current Russians, but nobody is as evil as the United States. And I have friends that say, "Roy, you got to stop saying that. You're putting a target on your chest." Why should I? Why should I change now? I've been doing it for 40 years. Even when I was in the military, I was saying we shouldn't be doing this stuff. So, why stop now? I'm not going to. Okay, let's see what other things are going on. Breaking up Russia is part of the New World Order. Yeah, and breaking up the U.S. too. America, Roosevelt. I've often talked about they want to balkanize the United States, and that's well on its way right now. Biden is putting the last few nails in the coffin, shutting down our energy, but buying it from Russia and Venezuela. Well, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. He's not really into the Green Deal. He's in. It's obvious if he was into the Green Deal, he wouldn't be doing that. No, what he's doing is he's shutting down the United States, and the electric grid, in no way in hell, is going to support charging every car in this country. But of course, they don't want you to have cars anyway, as I said the other night. Roy, do you like Clyde Lewis? He's really good too. I'm afraid I don't know who Clyde Lewis is. We are to split up into sectors. Yeah, that's right. And Russia, they want to do the same thing, but Putin's not going to let them. Putin's stronger now than he's probably ever been. Poland put itself in the crosshairs, Roosevelt. That's exactly right. And again, if Russia reaches out and tags them, I can't blame Russia at this point. The United States has caused this whole thing. Every single bit of it. They're the real enemy, the people that sit in D.C. They are the. Is Putin sick? I even doubt that information. It's very possible a man his age is going to start having a few problems. Somebody said it was. They brought it out at first that it was possibly prostate cancer. Then somebody said, well, he had a blood lymphoma. I don't know about the blood lymphoma. He could have had a prostate problem, but those are pretty easily taken care of. It's like I said in a video. I don't know, few weeks or months back. I said, he gets probably a complete medical checkup at the minimum twice a year, and so they're going to catch that real early. Leukemia. I don't think there's any evidence for that, Sandy Davin. I don't think there's any evidence for it. I think a lot of that's rumor. It's propaganda to try to discourage people that support Russia, the Russians themselves. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they're not putting that information out on Radio Free Europe or Radio America, whatever the hell they call it these days. Um, but regardless, I mean, the guy's coming up on 70 years old. Actually, he's not a hardliner compared to some of the others. So we better hope and pray that Putin gets done what he needs to get done in Ukraine and in strengthening Russia before he does pass on, because those hardliners that are in the back there waiting to come up, they could be a problem. Putin had a kidney blockage, not cancer. Okay, Christy. Yeah, I could believe that. Not drinking enough water, drinking too much vodka. You know what I mean? Off topic, my 9-month-old red lab had parvovirus. It's ugly. Yeah, parvo is ugly. Sorry to hear about that. Okay. Yeah, that's right. The U.S., you think about it, all we've done for almost 2 centuries now is wage war on one group of people or another. October Wolf says, after studying wars throughout history, for the most part, we, the U.S., did some terrible things to innocent people and will continue to do harm to our people and foreigners to further an agenda. Yeah. Uh, Evil does this. Empires do this. We were never meant to be an empire. We were to stay free of foreign entanglements. We were supposed to be a light here on this. I mean, it was bad enough that we took out the Native Americans as we headed west over this manifest destiny philosophy. That was bad enough. But then we kept going thinking the whole world is ours. There's a scene in Last of the Mohicans, which I've mentioned a couple times. The lady that plays Miss Monroe in that, one of the things, and I've quoted it quite a bit, She says, you know, I'd rather make the gravest of errors than surrender my own judgment. Well, I like ladies like that. And I like people like that. And that's very true. Why should you depend on somebody? I mean, it's good to ask for advice, but it's better to get information and then make your own decision. So I really like that scene, and the other scene was, and it really showed what was going on there. The British officer, the major, comes in to see the colonel or the general, whoever it is, and the big thing that they all laugh about and saying that it's necessary is to make the world England. Make the world England. Well, we were never supposed to make the world America. We were supposed to be unique. And we shit on ourselves and everybody else. And we've caused great suffering and pain and destitution. We haven't been saviors at all. I'm not even sure about World War II. Okay? Okay. Reigns of Healing. Putin was trained by Klaus Schwab. He wasn't trained by Klaus Schwab. Uh, You got to remember, Putin's his own guy. Okay? And this is, and, and, and a good agent is going to infiltrate an organization like that. Was he part of the young leaders and all that? Maybe. But I think from what I've seen now, and I've already explained this, Janelle Williams, Putin has shown that he's not with the WEF or the New World Order. He is not. Not the Anglo American Alliance New World Order, anyway. He's not. The WEF considers him an enemy now, and he considers them an enemy, and even brought that out the other night, as I talked about, where he said that Biden's Green Deal and economic policies are crap. Okay? He's already come against the World Economic Forum. All right, so same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. She came against it. I'm still waiting for her to say something negative about the CFR, but these types of things have to be done in their order. And frankly, at this point in time, as I explained the other day, I think Putin and Tulsi Gabbard have, if they didn't see the light before, they see it now. Okay, and we'll just watch them. I'm not saying you have to throw the towel in and say that they're great people and they're on God's side or anything like that, but they're headed in the right direction. So let's just watch them. Let's see if they keep going down that road. If they don't, then yeah, call them out. But as it sits right now, yeah, sometimes the old fudge factor is necessary. And if look, where is our CIA? Where are the British intelligence agencies? Where are the German intelligence agencies? Where's our great hero 007 that's fighting the mad scientists and Spectre? They aren't. They're part of the mad scientists and Spectre. They're protecting them. There isn't any Western intelligence agency that's taken down Klaus Schwab, Harari, Gates, any of those people, or even these idiots, these evil demons in the NIH like Fauci. They're not going after them. So, frankly, if I were Putin, I'd have probably infiltrated their organization, accepted their invitation, found out what they were after, and then said, okay, now I'm pulling back and I'm fighting you. Did Tulsi have that much insight to begin with? Probably not. I mean, she doesn't have the experience of Putin. But she could have finally said, things aren't adding up here. They're not. This isn't turning out the way they said it would. So I think it's very possible that both of them are trying to extricate themselves and try to make good, make lemonade out of lemons. That's how I view it, at any rate. I think that's really the case right now. And I'm not saying, again, Furious Cabbage, I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's like I've often said. The Assyrian king came down and destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel, and Babylon came over and destroyed Judah. Okay? They were used by God. They weren't good people. They were wicked, destroying the wicked. Well, that could be the same thing here. But we got to watch and see what's going on here, because there are other factors involved with this thing with Russia. So I'm keeping my mind open. I don't, I wish that they could have done some other way of doing this without causing all this destruction in Ukraine. But you got to understand that Ukraine is everything about that were violations of agreements that we just tossed and said we're not going to abide by the Minsk agreements or any of the other agreements or treaties that we've made, the U.S. and NATO. We've done that. Russia's guarding its border. Your President Biden won't guard yours. So why are you calling out Putin for doing what Biden should be doing for our border? Okay, so when you look at things like that, where you think where all you can say is Putin's not a good guy, well, all you're saying is that Biden is screwing you over, and that's okay with you. Putin's taking care of his people. There's nobody taking care of Americans, and every Americans better start realizing that. Nobody's taking care of the American people. Nobody. They're sending how many billions of dollars to Ukraine when you've got people here that lost their businesses, their jobs, you know, the gas, they cut down the pipeline, they cut off your energy, they're going to cut off your food, and they're sending money to Ukraine. Think about that. Think about that. Because Biden has to protect himself against the evidence that will come out about what he was doing in Ukraine, he and his son, Hunter Biden. Not that any law enforcement agency or the DOJ in the United States will do anything about it. Is he going to get impeached? Are they going to get rid of him? I don't know. There's talk of that. But they're sending all this to Ukraine, not partially because the old Trotskyites, the neocons, always wanted to take over Russia. That's why this encroachment on Russia, Putin said enough's enough. We're not doing this anymore. You're backing off, or we're gonna destroy you. And I can't blame him for that. Our evil people have pushed this. And then Biden's going a step further because his corruption in Ukraine and other places around the world might, and of course the biolabs and all that stuff, could very easily come out. And so they've got to create all this other fog and obfuscation so that you don't realize that that's happening. Bad Putin, bad Russia. No, bad Biden, bad U.S., bad military industrial complex, bad CIA, bad IC, bad bureaucrats in the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. No. Americans need to consider their leaders their enemy, or at least look at them with a jaundiced eye and stop saying, Roy, you've got to be American first. No, not now. America's not America. America is the evil tyrant empire in the world. And it's actually being destroyed. I'm not saying that I want it destroyed. I'm saying that it's going to happen. God's going to allow these other nations, just like he did with Assyria going into Israel. This was back, of course, 2,000, 2,500 years ago, 2,700 years, whatever it was. Our decades, look what they're doing, forcing your kids to look at all these crazy, debased things. They're evil. Don't you understand? They're evil. They deserve to be destroyed. Drazen report says, I don't want anybody on here that calls for the destruction of the United States. Well, I'm talking about it from a scriptural point of view, cause and effect. They're so evil, they're going to be taken out. The thing is you got to stay out of the way while it happens and try to protect yourself and your family and your friends. The United States needs to be destroyed. The way it's presently constituted, it needs to be. And that's their intent anyway. It's not my wish. It's cause and effect, but they're going to do it. And they think that they're doing it for themselves. Well, what's really going to happen is they're going to be the ones that are going to be walked over like, ashes underfoot. That's the way it's going to go. And there's no other way. Voting's never going to fix this. It's never going to fix this. Yeah, the sons of Belial. That's not how you pronounce it, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's gotten too corrupt. All right. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, there have been a lot of what was that? They said power plants. There's been Line 3 plus power plants that just shut down. Yeah. Um, and then we see all of the food supply, starting with Bundy Ranch. Well, actually, it started before that. The Californians shut off the water to their farmers. A good portion of the San Joaquin Valley was allowed to just dry up, the orchards and stuff there, over some supposed endangered little tadpole or something. It was ridiculous. They use any excuse they can to attack the food supply and to attack you as a carbon that needs to be eradicated. So it really started there. It started with a lot of other things like Monsanto making their GMO foods and stuff like that with no seeds. That don't create seeds. You have to buy them from there. The attack at Bundy Ranch on the beef supply, which now we see is happening nationwide, right? Actually, worldwide. Uh, the burning down of the different and the explosions in the different food processing plants, etc. This is not coincidence. This is deliberate. One every 10 years, maybe, but this many it's been like 2 dozen now. And then the chicken thing. Oh, they got the bird flu. We got to kill all the chickens. No, they're killing off you. They're taking your food supply away from you. The eggs are skyrocketing because of this. This is a war, ladies and gentlemen, and you are the enemy of the people in D.C., New York, London, and the Vatican. Probably even more so than an enemy of China. China doesn't like you either. you know, I'm not leaving them out. I think Putin and the Russians could get along. I've often said that Russia could be our sister country. Mm. Sarah Sheldon, good luck at destroying this country. They've already done it. Are you kidding me? They're mopping up, Sarah. The major offensive has happened. They're now doing mop up operations. It's over with. All we're going to end up with is small areas, hopefully counties, cities. I'd like to see some states stand up, but even Ron DeSantis isn't going to do that. He'll only go so far. He's still pushing Trump's, juice. No, it's on the way, I'm afraid. Pray every day. Keep a prayer in your heart. It's all a way to keep our attention from coming magnetic reversal. I don't mean to make fun of you, Janella Williams. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. As far as they're concerned, that would be just fine. And whether we know about it or not, it's not going to make any difference. Well, we're all going to panic. No, I don't think that's it at all. Even if that's going to happen, my thing is, and I talked about it, and this could cause it, of course. The sun, Malachi 4, where it talks about Shemesh, and God will send Shemesh with healing in his wings, right? And our enemies will be as ashes beneath our feet. Well, yeah, that could be it. Could it cause a polar shift? Yeah, sure. Yeah, but they don't care about that. That they're not doing all this other stuff to try to distract us from a magnetic pole shift. They don't give a crap about that. No, it's about their evil they don't want you to know about, Janelle. They distract you because they don't want you to fully understand how evil they are. Don't get distracted from that. Okay, that's more important to understand. Which Scotch, Roy? I showed you at the beginning of the video. It's not an expensive one. It's about $30-$35 a bottle. It's called Spayburn. It's a Speyside, not Islay or Highland. Speyside. It's actually a lot like an Irish whiskey, an upscale Irish whiskey like Redbreast. It's almost got a buttery biscuit nose to it and flavor. It's for the price. It's really not bad. I mean, I could pull out a Dalmore or I've got some other stuff here. I'd have to go look to see what they are. But Dalmore is, they're about $80 a bottle now or so. I could have pulled out one of those, but I'm trying to save those for when I really need them. This was just to entertain a little bit tonight. So why would U.S. be destroyed instead of the biggest violator of human rights with the forced labor and order? Why? Because China's never had the truth. That's why. Water dogfish. The Chinese people have never really been free. I mean, they've tried to live separately from the government. Look what the government's done there. And Brian from the New Atlas, he talks about the U.S. trying to encircle China and Russia and the types of things that they've done with the what's that called? Forget the name of it. Center for Democracy or something like that. It's part of the CIA. Uh, I can't remember the name of it right now, but um, to say that China's not doing the same kinds of things is kind of naive on Brian's part, or it's because of where he is. He has to be careful of what he says. But I think he's a brilliant evaluator, historian, uh, analyzer, and all those things. Okay, but China is evil, but it's the United States that had the truth about liberty and then turned its back on it. That's serious business. That's almost as bad as denying the Holy Ghost. Blaspheming against the Holy Ghost. It's almost that bad. The United States deserves what it gets now because it has turned its back on the truth. It's seeking to destroy its own people. Giselle here mentions, "Hi Giselle, how you doing? Nice to see you. I recognize your picture and of course your name. Agenda 2030, yeah, and that's worldwide, of course. And I think Putin's trying to pull back from that. He wants his people to survive that, and I don't blame him. But do you think that Biden or the people in D.C. want you to survive it? No. You are the target. You are their enemy. And the sooner you all wake up, and I know most of the people here have, a lot of my friends have it, they still can't see it. Yeah, sweet and saucy Scotch. To be called Scotch has to be made in Scotland, has to be produced in Scotland, and it is without an E. Whisky. I think that's even on this bottle. And then other whiskeys have an E. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it right there. Right there. See whiskey, it's without an E. It's Whisky. American is with Key, and others are with Key as well. I think Irish whiskey is with an E as well. All right. I Crunch Crunch Shield 8. Yeah, I know. I have not been able to verify that. That came out of the one. If what I know, if I understand what you're talking about, Biden's not sending missiles now. He's sending rockets, and the MLRS is there that will not be able to reach Russia from western Ukraine. Not even probably from the Donbass front line. But they wanted those to penetrate deeper into Russia. But Biden said no. At least that's the public statement. Who really knows what the liars in D.C. are going to do? But Putin did say if you give him long range stuff, you're going to pay the price. And he's not kidding. However, I don't know. I saw that there was an article in I think it's partially a tabloid, The Sun. I don't know really. I don't really use it. That I've never used it actually that I can recall. But they're quoting some Russian diplomat saying that they're going to use their Satan nuclear weapon to take out the entire United States. Four of them would take out the entire U.S. I don't know that they said that. But if Biden and the Americans and NATO keep pushing Putin, uh, you know, he will do more. Let's just hope it doesn't go there. But who knows? Just get ready the best you can. Yeah, we have exhausted mercy. Boy, that's true. Who said that? Valkyrie? Valkyrie 594. Yeah, we've you can't have mercy without justice, and justice will claim its dues. Yeah, Patrick Lancaster. I've mentioned him before. From inside there. Also, Graham Phillips and a few others. All right. Oh, Bailey's. You have Bailey's? Yeah. I'll toast to that. I like Bailey's. Usually in hot chocolate or coffee, but every once in a while I'll drink it straight on ice, usually. Aloha, Roy. Thank you. Service rumor is Putin's dead. Does he have body doubles? Most national leaders do have body doubles. We saw really good evidence of that with Hillary Clinton. I think there's a possibility that there might be some for Joe Biden, although I don't think that they really care that much about him, so I don't know if they go to the trouble. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible, but I don't think he's dead. Nah. The hardliners would be doing other things. I don't. Putin's got the brakes on the hardliners right now, so no, I think Putin's still around. Yeah, I think Putin is right now. Putin's popularity is like up around. I might be exaggerating here, but I think it's up around 80%. Yeah, you get a few dissenters and all that, but the Russian people are tired of being encroached upon by NATO, the United States, and by all these lies and deceptions, Ukraine being one of them. No, I think Putin's highly respected right now. And worldwide, there are Americans that respect Putin more than Biden. That's not saying much, but, I mean, it's a fact, you know. So, well, look, we've been going for an hour, but I just did want to come in and talk about those few things. I thought it was important that I apologize for losing my temper. That's not to say I won't do it again. you know, a secret passage out of America. What was that? Roosevelt? Marfugel. Yes, a secret passage out of America. Oh, I'm not sure what that's about. I might have to ask you about that offline. Very strategic. Yeah, something going on there. See, I can't see all these things all the time, but that looked really interesting. Boy, I wish there was a land. I pray every day for for deliverance and a land of refuge. So anyway, again, I wanted to come on just to apologize for that. Not saying I won't do it again, but yeah, that was kind of aggravating. So apparently they did go into my phone and drain my battery right away. So I got to remember to plug it in when I do these things. Keep power to it all the time. All right, and we talked a little bit about, you know, the fact that they're really coming after us. We are the final enemy they want to take out, and do not give up your guns. It would be better to die on your feet than be slaves on your knees. Believe me. Do not let them do this. I had somebody ask the other day if it was, since they're coming after the 9mm, if they should get a 22. And I said, well, there's nothing wrong with having a 22, but don't get rid of your 9mm. No way. No way, Jose. No way, Joey Biden. No way. No way, Leader McConnell. No way, Nancy Pelosi. No way, Chuck Schumer. No way, ATF. No way, DOJ. No way, FBI. Period. 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 Governments have killed millions and millions of people, and we're going to say that a school shooting is significant. I'm not saying wasn't a bad thing, but too often you guys up there design this to happen, or you see it coming and you let it happen because you're going to use it for political purposes. We already know that. You're the enemy. You're the demons in the flesh. Garland, Texas. Remember Garland, Texas, and what that FBI agent did there. Remember 1993 World Trade Center bombing, where the FBI gave them real explosives and let them pull it off. Then blame it on a sheik. Remember Operation Northwoods and all the others. So we talked about that, and then we talked about the difference between high intensity and low intensity warfare, conflict, and that most of the people that are mercenaries that have gone over there to fight for the Ukrainians found out that this isn't Afghanistan war, this isn't even Iraq or Syria. This is high intensity warfare, something the United States hasn't seen since World War II. And our generals are too damn stupid to figure it out, or they're deliberately stealing and ruining our treasure and our blood. Okay, everybody, thanks for coming. I thought I'd spend a little time having a little scotch with you and clarifying a few of those details. All right. Thanks for coming. Tomorrow I plan on doing some other things I probably won't be on at all. And like I said, I'm trying to get away from this a little bit. I really don't have to do it anymore. If I do it, it's because I just want to say something or whatever. And I explained the mountain thing, and I might as well explain it again. No, I'm not perfect. No, I didn't make it to salvation and all that stuff. No, the mountain that I talked about was that, I've really, I did what I was supposed to do. Whatever it was I agreed to do with God, I did it. Okay? That's all. So I'm not under any obligation. When I come on, it's just because I want to. Okay? All right. Y'all take care out here.